Welcome, everybody. This is session 3 of the Classics Club 2025, the Independent Bottlers series. And yeah, you're hearing it. This is one in English. It's the first one we ever do in English, but that's just because we have a very special guest joining us tonight, whom I'll introduce in just a minute. Just a couple of practical things for the next session. This will be in June, and I've decided that the theme for this session will be worm tubs. So we'll have 8 different bottlings from distilleries that still use worm tubs or some sort of thing that resembles worm tubs. But that'll be the session for June. So if you want to join that, if you're not signed up for the whole series, get your sample set, etc. I'll be sending them out probably end of this week or beginning of next week at the latest, since we have some holidays coming up. So I don't know when exactly. But so we'll be worm tubbing in June. A session that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've got all the bottles at home already, so looking forward to that one. For this one, yeah, the theme of the session is the guest, basically. I asked this gentleman if he could join in one of these sessions, and then I sorted out all the 8 bottles, so they have something to do with this man. He's a serial whiskey writer by now. He's also the only author I own 4 different autographed books of. And which is nice to have. And the main idea, the main reason for inviting him was the book Independent Scotch: The History of Independent Bottlers that he wrote. Was published last year, I think, David.
Year before
that, yeah. So that one was the main idea, because the whole series of this Classics Club, the whole 7 sessions, are all about independent bottlers. So 4 of the independent bottlers we're tasting today are kind of like the older bottlers, the ones with lots of history, and then we have 4 more recent ones in there. That's enough of a theme, I think, right? So I'll welcome him and officially introduce him, Mr. David Stirk. Welcome to our session.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
How are you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah. Sun's broken out again. We had a bit of rain here, but I'm good. You can tell the tan is from Campbelltown.
Yeah.
First time in my life I got a tan from Campbelltown.
We should call it Campbell Tan.
Campbelltown, yeah, yeah.
Campbell Tan. A wee tan.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I spent a week there, so that was good.
So yeah, you have the sample set with you too. In the end, it arrived there after a couple of trial and errors on my part. But there you go. So you can taste with us. You basically have no idea what's in the set either. So yeah, I think we should just start with the first sample. I'll put up the presentation so everybody can follow. There you go. It's not all your books I put on there, David, but most of them are in there. So
They're the only ones that matter.
they're the only ones. Yeah, the Whiskyopolis is basically the revamp of the Lost Distilleries of Campbelltown.
Yeah, complete rewrite.
Yep.
I'm
Great.
enjoying that right now. And I have to say, David, the Pioneering Spirits was one of the few whiskey books that made me laugh out loud.
Thank
So
you.
you have a way with words, and I like your sense of humor. I
Thank you.
enjoyed it very much.
Okay, cool. Maybe we should start first off, before we start with the first sample, is the book of Independent Scotch: The History of Independent Bottlers. Why did you write it?
Mainly because there hadn't been a book on independent bottlers, and even though the industry was expanding at quite a rate, there's independent bottlers are still finding that people come up and say, "Which distillery are you from?" And they have to explain, "We're not a distillery." And then people say, "Well, how is that possible? Why can you buy these casks?" So I wanted to explain the history of how it began, because it is unique to Scotch whisky. There is no other industry that I know of, and nobody yet has presented me with another one where the produce of a factory is used with its name as the selling point under another brand.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen. The closest is the car industry where you get BMW Alpine or you get Mercedes AMG and all that kind of thing. But it's not quite the same because they're two companies working together to create something. That's not the case in independent bottling. It's one company makes it, sells the product, and the other company then bottles it or does something with it. So I wanted to explain that. And I thought the best way of doing that was to intersperse the history of the industry with my own history of starting and selling an independent bottling company. And I wanted to inject a little bit of sort of my personality and humor into the book so that it wasn't just a dry history book. So that's kind of why we did it. And then we listed all the bottlers at the end, which of course is now already out of date.
Mhm.
Uh, because so many have already have started in the last few years. Yeah, and it's currently being translated into Mandarin, so that'd be quite cool.
Oh, wow, cool. Yeah. Just so I don't forget, and I'll only say it once, but all these books, if you don't have them, you should buy them. There you go.
They're all at whiskybooking.nl if that's what you use.
Whiskeybook.nl with Ronald, he sells them all. So
Yeah,
there you
exactly.
go.
Let's see.
All right. So David, I warned you about this. This is the first part of the nerd out. So for sample number one, we'll go step by step, I guess. So the first one is the question was the ABV. These are the guesses that everybody had. So quite a spread from 43% to 60% in this bottling. The correct answer was 50%. This is bottled at 50%. David is already nodding. I guess he already knows which one this is.
I know it's a grain, but
It's a grain. There you go. This one was interesting to me. The age-wise guesses, anything from 3-year-old to over 18-year-old is what people guessed. This is a 26-year-old, an older one as you go. These were the guesses for cask type for most people. So most people went to the bourbon side of things on this one. It's actually a refill X sherry bottling. So I everything that said sherry, I counted as right. Maybe David will set me right after this one, but
let's see
you
what
get
it is.
yeah, you probably know by now, but there you go. Single grain was the guess. Still some people who guessed the single malts, but it is in fact a single grain. There you go. Guesses for the distillery. This is always the most fun because how could you ever get this right, as we were saying earlier? But this is a North British, 26-year-old North British, David.
I know what it is, yeah.
Yeah, and you should know what it is since it's an electric
That's a
coup.
coup, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It came
Oh,
with the
and
book.
this was a question I entered just because there was a bottling of what whiskey in this session too. So the question here was, what color do you think of when you're tasting this whiskey? And most people went for yellow on this one. Now, the sad thing is, I invited Mark to be here too. And he said yes, but he's still too tired from Campbelltown Malts Festival, so he couldn't join. Otherwise, he could put in his 2 cents for this question. But there you go, yellow, and there you go. This is of course the bottling that you did that went along with this book.
Yeah. That's the most fun I've ever had making a label.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's the only time I've really properly laughed out loud when I asked the artist if she could put the caricature of Mark with the dartboard, and that came back. I even Mark was laughing really hard. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was good fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was necessary to put Mark on there.
Oh yeah, because it's Electric Coup, so he has to be on there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
if you read the label in the back label, so this is the only one that Mark isn't actually involved in.
Mm. Yes, because we selected all the others, unanimously, together.
Hmm.
Because this was for my book, but he has tried this. He does love it, so that's
Hmm.
fine. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't
And
bottle one. Wouldn't bottle one he didn't like.
of course, of course. And is there any reason that you chose like a single grain for coming along with this with your book?
Well, it just worked out that September 1996 is the exact month and year when I fell in love with whiskey, when my life was changed with one single dram of Glenlivet 21. So it seemed rather apt. And I've always felt that, well, I know independent bottlers are the promoters of single grain Scotch whiskey. If it wasn't for independent bottlers, we wouldn't be drinking grain whiskey. It
Hmm.
just wouldn't be exist. There wouldn't be any Cameron Bridge from Diageo. They tried and failed with it years and years and years ago. So all of these incredible releases that come out now, this is all because of independent bottlers, mainly Cadenheads and Duncan Taylor, and then latterly, I would say Douglas Lang.
Mhm.
So I thought it was nice. It was nice to do a single grain. It was a nice age. It still had it probably was cask strength at about 51%. So bottling at 50 was quite nice.
Mhm.
And I just enjoy this whiskey. I think it's just lovely.
It is so, you don't know this, but everybody else knows. This is also the first time I'm trying these whiskeys. I didn't try them when I sampled them or when I made the sample. So I'm discovering them together with you guys. Um, but yeah, really nice stuff. What's the idea behind the electric coup, David? Is it
So that
just
was a series
you
that
can't
Mark,
help
yeah,
yourself?
Mark and I came up with that. I've known him since 98. 1998, and we've always talked about working together, but we've never been able to. And then when he became independent with What Whiskey and I was independent as well, we thought we'd just have a bit of fun. So the electric bit is obviously What, and
Hmm.
the coup bit is my name, Stirk, which is used in the farming trade for young bullocks and heifers.
Okay.
So electric coup seemed to work. That was actually Kate's idea, Mark's wife, Kate Watt,
Hmm.
to come up with that. So yeah, it worked well, and it was great fun. We did two series.
Hmm.
We would love to do more, but cask prices haven't quite come down enough yet because the first and foremost, whenever we do these, they've got to be so affordable that you're going to drink them.
Hmm.
Uh, we laughed that this was the only series that you would lose money at auction. I've just had a delivery. Hang on one sec.
Yeah. All right. Had iemand die al geproefd? Voorhand?
Ik heb
Ja,
hem al
wel, hè,
geproefd,
Mark?
ja. Ja, ik
Right,
had hem
that
al
was
geproefd. Ik heb
Amazon.
er zelfs een rambling van gemaakt,
Mhm.
2 jaar geleden. Het
Mhm.
gekke is dat ik hem in deze line-up op de tweede plek had gezet.
Yeah,
Dus als tweede whisky, dus ik heb hem niet
yeah,
herkend,
yeah.
vreemd genoeg.
Yeah, we were just talking, David. Mark did a rambling and a review on this. But as we'll see on the next whiskey that we're tasting, he actually guessed the next whiskey would have been this one. So, but there you go. It always happens, this kind of stuff.
Blind
Um,
tasting, terribly difficult.
Blind tasting is incredibly difficult. Another fun thing we like to do, David, is everybody writes their tasting notes when they have the samples. I
Cool.
put them all together and I put them in a word cloud. And that looks like this. So I don't know if you there was
Yeah, that's perfect.
thank you everybody by the way for all using English. I only had to translate a couple words here and there, so that's good. So yeah, what do you think of these? So the bigger the word, the more times it was used
Mm.
by people as a tasting note. So
No,
would you?
that's spot on. Absolutely. Even down to the nail polish remover.
Yeah.
All grain whiskey has a certain little element of that, and I know that puts some people off.
Hmm.
But apple pie, baking spice, candy, milk chocolate, yeah, it's brilliant. Yep. It just sums up my belief. There is no super taster in the world. There is no
Hmm.
person with a born palate that is above everybody else's. Which is why I think I love Serge Valentine so much because he always says it's just my opinion,
Hmm.
I'm one guy. But looking at that, there's if I sat and spent about 20 minutes, that's exactly what I would come up with.
Yeah.
Really
Oh,
good.
we do have a very good audience here. Some
Yeah.
real good tasters. So there you go.
You know
Um,
what is hay liquor?
Hey Liquor. I don't know who wrote that. Hey
It
Liquor.
sounds like Dutch for something rude.
I think it's two words actually, like hay and
Ja,
liquor.
ja.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. That's fine.
Yeah. But hey Liquor, yeah, it sounds good.
Actually, it sounds like hair liquor, doesn't it? It sounds like very tasty.
It also sounds like it's like an insult to somebody. You
Yeah.
hey Liquor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Arse liquor, hay liquor. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's also fun is after all the required questions. There's also one question that asked for extra comments and extra things that people would like to add about these whiskies. I'm just going to read them here. Also, thank you to a couple of people who actually spent the time this time to do very specific guesses on which bottles these would have been. So somebody thought this was a Glasgow Distillery 5-year-old by North Star Spirits. There you go.
Hmm.
Then you get good to start with, and the next person said water isn't helpful. The sweet and spicy oiliness reminds me of an Irish pot still whiskey. Then somebody guesses an Invergordon. Nice appetizer, nice start. So yeah, overall some pretty nice comments. Sometimes these comments can get quite vicious too. So there you go. That's all
That's
the more
fine.
fun.
We don't all like the same thing, so that's absolutely fine.
But what I like about these views and comments is some people think of Irish pot still, somebody else thinks of a young single malt from Glasgow, and then you go to it goes all kinds of ways with these blind tastings. And I quite like that actually. So, all right. Everybody happy with this one? Yeah. All right. All the scores and stuff come all the way at the end, David, just so you know. So we started out with the Electric Coup 26-year-old. Also, just Mark, to give you a little heads up well, a compliment actually. You scored this one in your on your review 86 out of 100, and for this sample blind, you scored the exact same score. So good on you. There you go. And what I also like about your book, David, just a small thing, is you dedicated it actually to not only to Dawn, but also to Piet Molenkamp,
Yeah.
uh, whom I had the pleasure of meeting once. Very early in my whiskey career, I met him at the train station in Ghent after the festival. And the first thing he said to me is, "Do you want to taste what I have in my sample bottle?" So
That's Pete. Yeah, he was
lovely,
such a
lovely
lovely
guy.
man. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess you know him from Malstock and from all the.
Oh yeah, yeah. I spent years traveling to the Netherlands, and Pete would. It's just one of the most positive people you ever meet,
Mhm,
and as you say, always had something to pour you, and just loved everything about the industry and the people. He's sadly missed.
mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Sample number two. Some more mixed feelings about this one. Uh, First, the guesses. Again, ABV. Quite mixed, but you say it, yeah,
Hmm.
some agreement on some of these segments. It is 57.1, bottled at slightly higher than some people thought. Then the age, again, all over the place, basically. This one was a 15-year-old, so younger than the earlier one. Why do I say this now? Bourbon cask was mostly guessed, but here we have a mix of first and second fill Oloroso casks and bourbon casks. So all of these, it's a small batch bottling. Do you like it, David? You're tasting it now.
I'm not getting any Oloroso. I was nodding with the six people who said bourbon.
Okay.
It's very icy in sugar,
Okay.
and sort of light fruits. Yeah, I'm guessing grain again, but
Yeah. Yeah. You're basically. Where is my bottle? I'll look for it afterwards. Most people went for single grain again. This is again a single grain. Absolutely correct. We are going for the distillery. And again, this is another Nord British, but still a 15-year-old. So what I wanted to do was put a 26-year-old Nord British next to a 15-year-old Nord British to see what would the result be. And the bottler is Signatory Vintage. This is one of the most recent bottlings of their turnout. I think it's, where is my bottle here? There it is. This is bottling number, it's 100 proof edition number 2, single grain Scotch whiskey. Most people thought it was red when they tasted it. It's this one, so the 15-year-old, bottled at 57.1%. Yeah. Um, this one, I guess you know of this series, David, that they're doing since the last couple of years. I have the feeling that this 100 proof series that they're doing now, which is very affordable whiskey at high ABV, is something that they wouldn't have done 5 years ago.
yeah, it's a funny one. The stock was probably bought 5 years ago,
Hmm.
maybe longer. Um, Signatory is such an odd company.
Hmm.
It's so hard to work out what they're doing. I mean, they straddle both sides of the independent bottling spectrum. They have some of the best value. I won't say cheap, but
Hmm.
some of the best value. And if you go back historically, you guys will know Signatory used to be very affordable,
Hmm.
especially with their sort of they came out with a 40% or a 43%
43,
range.
yeah, the bright orange bottles and
Exactly.
tubes.
They were really, really affordable. But they also have anything that Andrew puts his name on, and then you're into hundreds and thousands and sometimes thousands and thousands. So they straddle both sides and they kind of work markets in a different way. And they've moved around Europe as well. At one point, they were so reliant on France. They were in bed with La Maison du Whiskey and supplied every single cave in France. And it was an enormous market for. They sewed up the market. Seemed to have a falling out with La Maison. And now I think because of their partnership, I mean, they're 50% owned by Kirsch, I think.
Hmm.
So Germany is now a huge market for them. And a few years, China was a big market. That's fallen off as well. But this series is one that I'm sure Andrew had an enormous amount of stock of a certain age range, high ABV, all made within sort of a 4 or 5 year period of each other.
Hmm.
And he would have bought it at such a price that he can do this series. And that as you see, the packaging's minimal
Hmm.
and knock it out at a price that everybody who like us, who are independent bottling drinkers, looks at and thinks, well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And within the range, you've got absolute stunners. I mean, I've got three up here, funnily enough.
Yeah.
You've got some stunners, and you've got a few others that are a little bit ropey or a little bit astringent.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the Signatory way. Not every single one's a banger, but then they tend to be not rubbish either. So
Yeah. I
it's
think
a funny company.
yeah, I think this bottle is in the shops right now for about 45 euros.
Yeah.
So, which is what you said. It's basically incredible that it's possible to do this. They have the same. They have like a 14-year-old Orkney, so Highland Park, at 60 or 65 euros in the market right now. So
Yeah.
it makes you think. Why is doesn't everybody sell at these prices?
It's a simple supply. If you had the money when this stock came available in 2017, 2016,
Mhm.
2015, if you had the money to put it down, you're reaping the rewards. If, like so many independent bottlers, you came from 2020 onwards, you are struggling because of all the elevated costs of cask prices.
Mhm.
And Signatory were a buying company, they weren't a selling company. So their strategy was to just keep buying and laying stock down,
Mhm.
um, and they weren't releasing stock unless they were trading with somebody. So and Andrew just kept building up stock of all this incredible stuff, and he's got the contacts in the sherry cask industry, so he can do all this re-racking, and it's not costing the same prices as other people because he's buying in such quantities.
Mhm.
So it's just I'm not sure what the Belgian is, but we call it economies of scale. The bigger
Yeah.
you are, often the cheaper you can make the unit price.
Yeah.
I do know other independent bottlers look at it with absolute jealousy.
Mhm.
But as somebody who I started bottling with Cadenheads in 2002, that's always been the case. I looked at what Andrew could bottle then, and I used to be so jealous.
Mhm. Yeah. What I also feel, and that's maybe a question some people ask themselves, is so I put two North British here in the lineup next to each other, 26-year-old, 15-year-old. Um, is it possible to distinguish different single grain distilleries whiskeys, or
It's
is it all
very,
cask?
that's very, very difficult. I think sometimes when they're corn and wheat, that's much easier. But then I think was it the late 80s they stopped using corn because prices became too high.
Hmm.
Um, I would defy anybody to sit down with 5 or 6 single grains and be able to work out which is which, especially when you have so much cask influence.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. They are different, but I'm not sure there's a grain aficionado out there that could sit down and tell you which is which. I've had quite a few grain new makes, and they are so neutral, it's unreal.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, no, I couldn't do it. Maybe somebody else could.
It's a bit like what Belgian guys like to do is five different Pilsner beers from and have them next to each other. They're all the same, basically. So. Yeah. Yeah, Nord British. What do we have in the way of word clouds? There you go. Um, yeah, sharp was sharpness. There's a couple of words
Mhm.
that overlap there. This generally wasn't enjoyed as much because the alcohol was more forward than the first one for most people, I think. A bit fiery to my taste is an extra comment. Needs water, feels like a rye to me. Unbalanced, as somebody else says. And then another comment was, every time I nose or taste, I discover new things. Very interesting stuff. So, yeah. Uh, so,
It's interesting, but I don't get any of the Oloroso on it. I
no,
don't get any. I mean,
no.
even looking here, I don't see anything that leads me towards
Yeah, maybe there's
cherry.
like, I see like
Bit of chocolate.
sultanas,
Yeah,
maybe,
chocolate
or
maybe,
chocolate.
but nothing like you would expect. It
Yeah.
it should be far more darker. Licorice, I suppose.
Hmm.
But anyway.
There was one that I didn't get. It's like Terry's chocolate.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know Terry's chocolate, but who wrote that?
Chocolate orange. It's orange flavored
Ah,
chocolate.
okay. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's traveled extensively in the UK.
Yeah, yeah. I also like these word clouds because they're completely random besides the sizes, and you get chocolate next to bleach, which is which is fun that
Okay,
people
own up. Who's drinking the bleach?
who's drinking the bleach again. Yeah. Hmm. Probably not in the session now because they're drinking bleach. Uh, all right. That's yeah. There was a little sub theme in these eight also with single malts and blends and single grains. So we've had the two single grains. There's no more single grains to come, guys. Just a little heads up. Um, let's go to number three, maybe. Number three. I just have to say you're getting better at this, guys. More the first session with these ABVs were like all over the place, and we're getting more and more to the point where more people are agreeing on this, which is good to see. It is correct what you've guessed, so it's the 55%. This one, 6 to 8 year old is the guess, well, and also 9 to 12 year old. It is a 9 to 12 year old. The bottle doesn't actually say give an age, but it says on the back label distilled in 2013. So that's why we know. Uh, Oloroso casks, most people go for, and some other sherry casks there too. Yeah, sherry butts is what's on the label. So I gave points for everybody that guessed something that has to do with cherry. A single malt, most people said. This is a blended malt. Also impossible to guess or to put a, to get, but it's interesting to see. Most people went for a Ben Rins, which was fun to see, and also the other the bottom one is blended malt. So these are the people that guessed blended malt. It is a blended malt, as we said, and this is one bottled by North Star Spirits, uh, which most people have a brown feeling about when they taste it. It's the Supersonic Mac 3 that I put into this sample. Um, Now, North Star Spirits is the same like with Electric Coup. I really love what they're doing, but they're not on the market in Belgium. Not really. Well, you can get them here and there if you're really looking for it, but they're not really widely distributed. But this is the kind of bottle that I really enjoy in independent bottlers. I don't know what your feelings about this one are, David.
I'm biased because I absolutely adore North Star Spirits.
Yes, I know.
Ian and I are very good friends. It's funny. I've drunk that and I wouldn't have guessed that. I think I finished it actually. Well, it's Mac 3. There's that's the third iteration of it.
Yep. I think
Um,
it's the most recent one that I got a bottle of. So this one.
but this I think is Ian's sort of value blended malt. It's his you sort of everyday sipper you can afford to drink.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough for independent bottlers in Belgium. There aren't that many importers. Um,
No,
obviously you've got the Nectar and
and there's also a lot of local independent bottlers on the market
Yes.
here. So,
Yeah, that's right. There's quite and with quite a following too.
hmm
Very respected and rightfully so. That there's some good stuff coming in,
yeah.
but it's a tough market. Obviously, your tax is one of the highest in Europe as well. That doesn't help.
hmm
So a lot of you guys just flip to Luxembourg and pick up there and or
Or,
the Netherlands.
or get it online from the Netherlands, like I did with this bottle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there's no other way to get this here. Maybe I'll quote a little. I'll quote Ian from your book, David, because he's of course North Star Spirits is featured in the book. The quote from Ian is: "Early on, I was able to begin a range of uber premium blended malt whiskies that I named Vega. Continuing our Constellation theme, I was very keen to show that the blended sector is every bit as exciting and rewarding as the single malt sector. This led me to also bottle several blended Scotch whiskies. These incredible blends put North Star Spirits on the map, and I'm very excited of the potential of this category in the future." Would you agree with because this is not an easy thing to do.
No, but it has become easier.
Mhm.
There's quite a few independent bottlers now who specialize in blends. There's Living Souls, there's Woven. Obviously,
Yeah.
Compass Box have been around for a long time, although they seem to be falling a bit off the radar. Maybe you guys will know better than me, but
Well, I think John's not on board anymore, so.
John's gone. But also just a lot of their marketing and things. I don't know. It just seems like you don't hear much from them anymore.
Mhm.
But in their place, as I said, is Woven, Living Souls, and there's another one as well whose name I've forgotten. Turntable. That was who I
Mhm.
was thinking of. And then quite a few fantastic blends are coming out of Carn Moore. Even Cadenheads, which is hilarious because that was the last thing they ever did when I worked for them.
Yeah.
They didn't blend anything. Everything that they had left over went into Campbelltown Lock.
Yeah.
But now they're blending some exceptional stuff, some really, really good drinking whiskey, and you can go blend yourself. Douglas Lang, of course, Hunter Lang. So yeah, the sector within the independent bottling world of blends has exploded. A lot of that is because they can buy stock if it's for blending from distillers, whereas they can't buy the single malts as readily as it used to be the case. So
Mhm.
if you've got good whiskey and you're going to sell it to me, I'm going to buy it if it's the right price, even if I have to blend it. And that's kind of what's happening now. So
Yeah. Maybe it's also because just the public is more ready for it than 10, 15 years ago to buy
yeah,
a
I think
blended
so.
malt or a blend.
I think the snobbery around single malt has gone quite a bit. Some of you guys have been drinking as long as I have, if not longer, and you'll remember that it was, if it wasn't a single malt, it wasn't whiskey.
Hmm.
So that's gone now, and I think it is because you will go to a festival and you'll try something, what is that? And then somebody says it's a blend. And also part of that is the resurgence of old blends in
Hmm.
auction. And you used to be able to pick them up for 20, 30 pounds, and now a white horse that's around World War II is three, four, five, 600, 1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
So people are giving it the respect it deserves. And I think we as consumers now are of a mind, if we like it, we'll buy it. And we don't really care about anything else. If it tastes good and the price is right, we'll buy it. And some of these blends are hitting those notes really, really well.
Yeah, and stuff like this, like I mean, you see the bottle on screen there. It just looks really good too.
Yeah, well, Ian's brilliant at all that.
Yeah. I
He's quite a dynamic person. So,
I met him a long time ago when he was still with AD Rattray.
oh, okay.
In the shop I was there, and I had met him before, and I visited. I was all by myself, and I had a really good tasting at the shop then. So, and then afterwards he started out with North Star Spirits, of course. So,
Mm. Yeah, we were doing his first bottlings at Creative Whiskey. So Ian and I go back. Well, we go back to 80 Ratchery times, but when he first went out on his own, Creative Whiskey was doing all of his logistics and everything. So
mhm.
we were privy to. I've got one of his first bottlings up there. We were privy to the stuff he was getting, and it was just fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic stuff.
Yeah. Well, Creative Whiskey, I would have liked to put a bottle in, but well, it's hard to find them nowadays.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've bottled something with Creative Whiskey, right?
Yes, 2018 would have been the last time I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I've got a couple here lurking about, but yeah.
I've got a few. You might see them up
Yeah.
there.
Do you hesitate to open these bottles, David? since their
Some of
history?
them, some of them I do because they are ones of one.
Hmm.
Some of them that's kind of the stash that is for looking at. But I want to drink all of it. I don't want to leave any of this to my kids.
No, no.
They don't even drink whiskey. But then if I'm doing a tasting, if somebody invites me, or if like I'm doing a Glasgow club tasting at the end of the year, I'll take 7 or 8 old creative whiskies where that's the last bottle of it, and we'll drink those because this stuff is, if I don't know how old you guys are, but we're all similar ages. If you've got enough whiskey for a special occasion for the rest of your life, you need to start opening them when there's a special occasion. And a special occasion for me is simply with people who will enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so next time you're in Belgium, you'll do a tasting for us.
Okay, that's a
Yeah,
deal.
let's do that. Guys,
This
you're all
is
there.
being this is being recorded, right?
This is being recorded. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
I'll
David. Sign me
That's
up, David.
legally
Sign me up.
binding.
I'll edit it into a ringtone and send it to David.
Well, it's been so long since I've been to Ghent,
Hmm.
Ghent. So I need to go back to the festival. I've got good friends there,
Absolutely.
so I need to come
My neck
back.
of the woods.
Yeah, lovely, lovely place. Love the city. Love the vibe. I love Belgian beer. There's no reason not to go. It's not
Yeah,
even that far.
there you go. So next time you're here, just let me know and I'll organize the tasting for you.
No problem. Geen problem.
Geen probleem. There you go.
Geen problem.
Let's put up a word cloud for the supersonic. There you go. I always like it when there's lots of big words because that means that lots of people are tasting the same stuff. And I guess here you have more of that sherry influence than you did with the former one.
Yeah, raisins, dry and sweet, chocolate,
Hmm.
spicy, cherry, red fruit. I mean, that's what you're expecting. That's what you're getting.
Hmm.
Again, if I sat 20 minutes, I would be writing all of this. It just goes to show how similar, even in different, cultures, kind of.
Hmm.
Um, although we're all European, despite what Brexit said. Yeah, I like the alcohol acid one. That's quite good.
I always I find it funny also that when I'm compiling these word clouds, you see certain words pop up. Like in this one, there's banana, but
Hmm.
in the earlier one, there's banana too. And then if you go check, usually it's one person that's tasting banana in everything or in different whiskeys. So
Have you
it's
got
also a moment.
is one of your
Like
members a gorilla?
yeah, yeah. So it's sometimes it's just like a spur of the moment thing or something, a heat of the moment that you're experiencing something, and then yeah. And also, as Mark will attest, because he writes lots of reviews, and everybody probably is the second time or the third time and the fourth time you taste the whiskey, you taste different things, and you
Yeah.
write different things about it. So that's also the good thing. That's what I tell people in tastings when I do tastings. The good thing about a bottle of whiskey is you don't just buy one bottle. You buy like 25 bottles,
Hmm. Hmm.
and every time is different. So
Yeah, and as it goes down, it changes. You get to the last
yeah,
3 or 4 bits, it can be exceptional or it can be terrible.
yeah.
As that oxygen has changed it. And I think that's one of the reasons why we love such high alcohol whiskey is because as it goes down, it does oxidize and some of those more fruity flavors come out. Um, so it's sometimes when you buy something, oh, I don't like that, and then you go. In fact, a good example of that is I'll get it out. When I first bought, this was the 200th anniversary of Glenlivet.
Hmm.
It's £55. I thought I'd try it. When I first tried it, I thought, you know what, that just tastes like 12-year-old Glenlivet. And I had some last night, and it now has just a hint of tropical fruit about it. So it just all it needed was 5 or 6 months with a good chunk
With
taken out
some
of it to get to the
with some
bottle. So
oxygen.
yeah, it's a bit like when you meet people. The first impression's like, oh, that guy's an asshole, and then
Yeah.
you third or fourth time you meet them, you go, oh, okay, actually they're just quite funny or they're silly or whatever.
Wait
That's,
till you
that's what I
host
get anyway.
wait till you host like 20 online sessions with people.
I think I've done a few. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So everybody's really quiet. Any more opinions, stuff you'd like to add about one of the first three bottles or this one, or is everybody just happy?
Just happy.
Everybody's just happy.
Not very happy. This one was delicious, actually.
Yeah, these were the quotes. The extra quotes were like great stuff, good stuff. Not my favorite, but a strong, lasting finish. That's what I call a happy ending. There you go. Uh, And one of the guesses was a Glenbergie 21-year-old signatory for 10 years the nectar. An older Glenbergie, yeah. I don't
No,
know
that
actually
was me.
what malt is in there. I don't know if you have any clue or idea, David, about this.
No, but I could probably find out. I'm trying to think. It's probably a bit of Ben Rinner's and Dao Yuan, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe
No.
Manic more.
Yeah, I didn't reach out to Ian on this one. I should have basically, but I'll send them a message afterwards, and I'll let you guys know if I find something out.
Yeah, but in all honesty, does that really matter?
Of course, it doesn't matter.
Do we want to know?
I don't know.
I quite like the mystery. This is the Supersonic Mach 3, and I like the mystery. If tomorrow you were to mail me and said, well, this is 25% Glenbergie, 25% Malachmore, and 50% Berins, it might take
Why?
away some of the mystery.
Okay.
This is quite a lovely blended malt.
It's a bit. Is
I
it a
don't
bit
need to
like
know,
Big
I
Pete?
don't need to know what's in there.
Yeah.
I
When you find out how much Port Ellen is in Big Pete, that's the disappointing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, those 2 drops you mean.
Yeah. Per vat.
yeah, the breath of Fred Lang. Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely understand, Mark, and I totally agree with you. But you know that these sessions are about nerding out, so we need to know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. Let's go to the next one, which is an interesting one to me, to see what you thought of it, everybody. So yeah, uh, we're off to just the higher, well, over 50%. Most of you think somebody thinks it's 40%, which I mean, totally viable. We're at 53.6% on this one. 9 to 12-year-old is your most guess. Nobody guesses over 15-year-old, but this is a 16-year-old actually, so a bit older. It's a bit of a weird one, but there you go. Oloroso. Most people think this was matured in Oloroso, but you see this is more all over the place. We have some brandy, some virgin oak, some red wine, some white wine even. But these are Manzanilla hogsheads that this was matured on, or these were, well, the question we asked David was, what is the last cask this was in before it was bottled? So that's mostly what I know about these. A single malt, and yes, this is a single malt. Indeed, guesses all over the place. But this is a Glenfarclas. Well, it's not mentioned on the bottle, but I know it's a Glenfarclas because this was bottled by Cadenheads, and this is well, a brown one, as most people thought. But this is the Enigma Speyside 16-year-old single malt, which was bottled last year also, February, released February 2024. So just over a year ago. A bottle I had in my cupboard and wanted to put on a tasting for a while now. And an interesting one. How do you feel about this one, David?
Well, I would never have guessed this was Dunfarclas.
No.
Okay. Well,
Maybe.
I reached out to Cameron, asked him which one this was, and he said it's Glenfarclas. But we can only use the name Glenfarclas a couple times a year or something, he said. And so this one, they couldn't put the name on. And as most people here know, the Enigma series that Caden had started using in 2023, I think, they bottle things that are weird for them or slightly out of the box or different or whatever. And I guess this fits with the Manzanilla hogsheads.
I get the Manzanilla.
Mhm.
It's got a creaminess to it. It's a little bit sharp on my nose.
I see now that I put the wrong image on the screen because this is another bottling, but the one I used is the 53.6%, so it's not the 51.9. There you go. Also, what I noticed is go back to this one, is that nobody guessed or would have thought this was from Cadenheads, which is probably what they're trying to do with the Enigma series. This is something that's outside of what they usually do.
I'm guessing that you don't find much Cadenhead in Belgium either.
We used to have a lot,
Hmm.
but they kind of changed what they're doing. So we have lots of the original collection now, the 46%. And then Enigma came about as one of the few bottlings that's usually higher than 46%. And we used to have all the single casks and all the gold labels and black labels, but that completely stopped nowadays. So lots of people weren't really happy with that. Some of them are present here.
Hmm.
But yeah. What else do I have here? I guess was a blended scotch. The nose reminds me of Coca-Cola bottle candy. Wild Guest is a Ben and Sherry What Whiskey, a blended malt. So yeah, all over the place basically in guesses. So
Yeah, I get the Coca-Cola thing.
mhm. Yeah, I know. Well, when you say it, I get it too. But anybody here
Hard
who
suggestion.
tried it before? Nobody tried it before? Okay.
I have, in fact, yeah.
Did you like it the first time, Mark?
I scored it an 84, if that means anything. I have my tasting notes up on Whiskey Base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You found it very
But
meaty in your tasting notes,
I
Mark.
found it
Do you get
rather
the same
umami. Yeah,
things right now?
actually, no. I'm not getting the umami traits neither on the nose nor on the palate. I do still get the coconut and the melon, though.
Let's see what else is on there. Ah,
Well,
je ne
one
sais
of
quoi. I
this
didn't
is
translate that. Je ne sais quoi.
I would not
Trying.
have guessed this was a Glenfarclas, to be honest.
No, completely. Well, two people guessed it was a Glenfarclas, but some interesting stuff here like pickle juice. Uh, Je ne sais quoi, of course. Special, which is also always a good one to use as a tasting note. Cardboard. There's anything from cardboard to dark fruits, basically, which is also interesting to see.
Yeah, I get the cardboard as well.
Yeah.
It's making me think a little bit of your liqueur piquant as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, maybe we should mix it with beer.
What does terrestrial mean?
Earthy.
Or at
Earthy,
least,
yeah, arts.
right, yeah.
I guess that's the what's meant there.
Unless it's extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Then it smells of E.T.'s finger.
Would this have been a bottle that you would have bottled when you were at Cadenheads, David?
That's a good question. I don't know. It doesn't float my boat, this one. I've got to be honest.
Mhm.
It's a bit spiky. The fact it's Glenfarclas is in its favor, but I think we're all so used to associating Glenfarclas with, as Mark says, something a bit meatier.
Mhm.
I probably would have been tempted to leave it a bit longer and see what happens. It's not bad. It's lovely stuff. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it just so I can see why they didn't call it Glenfarclas either.
Why they put it in the Enigma
Yeah,
series, which
get
is kind
another
of a
lawyer's letter from his
little
own
bit
client.
offbeat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do see like these this Enigma series, also the 100 proofreaders from Signatory. These are really modern things nowadays that are happening. Again, this wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
Hmm.
These kinds of bottlings. Is it because of the economy right now? Is it because of people are getting used to stuff like this, or it's possible even to sell stuff like this nowadays? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a little bit of all three of that. The possibility of selling it's the big one.
Mhm.
Cadenheads obviously relies on its outlets heavily, so it has a ready stream of people coming and trying and buying. The Enigma series is not a huge part of what they do. At least it wasn't. It might be bigger now. But none of that existed when I worked there. That everything we did was named. The chairman would have shuddered at having something with no name on the label. That would have been against his
Yeah.
religion. But that it is the way of the whiskey industry. We've got more and more companies protecting their brand. So we have more enigmas on the market, more mystery malts, more secret Speysides, more
Yeah.
secret others.
Which is also kind of funny because everybody knows what's in there. Or
to a
can find
large
out.
extent, if it's a secret Highland, good luck, and if it's a secret Speyside, good luck. Isla's a lot easier. Campbelltown's ridiculously simple, and Orkney is there's only one really. So
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. All right. Guys, I thought this was an interesting one to put in the tasting, and I hope you enjoyed it. We're halfway on to the next one, or any other comments from anybody? Everybody still happy? Very happy?
Happy, yes, but
Okay.
deploring the fact that I've not had one right so far.
So
it's 4-0 for Meug.
4-0 for Meug. Yeah. I'm breaking everybody again.
Jeroen, maybe on this one, I really don't like it because for me, the word sort of sulfur, brown rubber. I am the only one having this bad feeling with it. Was there something wrong, or I do not understand most of the notes I'm reading because for me it was really not nice to drink.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, possible.
But
I'm enjoying it actually. I quite like it, but
there's no sulfur or burnt rubber from your side. That's
I don't
weird.
have it.
Are you sure you didn't put something wrong in the sample you sent me?
No. I would never do that.
Sent you a 1980s Edward Hour.
Yeah. I sent you something soapy.
Okay, just wanted to know.
No. I'm a bad person, but I'm not that bad, Eric. So.
No, I know, but yeah, weird. Really weird for me, this one.
Okay. It can happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's get on to the second part of the tasting then. Sample number 5. Again, some discrepancies here in the ABVs. Again, it's very interesting to see how different people experience a whiskey, even on a factoid like ABV. I mean, anything from 40% till 60% people are in thinking here. So, yeah, just interesting to me. This one is 51.6, so slightly lower than the last one we had. 51.6. Most people were on to a 9 to 12-year-old. And again, this is a 15-year-old. So we've had some older whiskeys in this tasting up till now. So it's a 15-year-old. Lots of bourbon barrel guesses. The info actually says refill hogshead, but I tend to agree this is a bourbon cask. Used to be a bourbon cask, so I gave you points for bourbon on this one. Single malt, yes, indeed. This one is a single malt. Lots of ways this could have gone, but this is Craigellachie. 15-year-old Craigellachie, bottled by not what whiskey, but yes, indeed, Thompson Brothers. This one, which was white for most people when tasting. It's this one, actually. So 2007 vintage, aged 15 years, 213 bottles from a refill hogshead. Your thoughts, David, on this one?
Quite lemony, quite light. I was actually thinking Milton Duff, not Craigellachie, because Craigellachie for me is usually again a meteor distillate. That Craigellachie sometimes suffers with a bit of sulfury metallic thing. This is very light, very soft citrus.
Yep.
I'm just laughing at the beard oil.
Yeah, it's a good. They do good labels, Phil and Simon. Actually, I have to give a shout out to, I think it was Vincent, who, as a wild guess in the comments, put Craigellachie 2012 Thompson Brothers plus Give It Time. You were only off by 5 years, Vincent.
Too close.
Yeah.
It's because I rated it younger in my head. I guess I went for that one.
Yeah. All right. Another guess was Ben Rinnes, 13-year-old. And then another comment was something strangely smoky at the background. I think it was Tom that you did this one. I don't get any smokiness, but maybe
I
somebody
do.
else does.
I do.
You do?
I
Okay.
get an earthy peatiness on this, definitely.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a refill from like an Ardmore or
Yeah.
something.
A lighter, not an Isla heavily peated one, but like an Ardmore or something. Yeah, okay. Could be. You already referred to it, David, earlier, that you helped out Ian Croucher for his first steps into bottling when he was still at AD Rattray. And then in your book again, Phil says that Ian helped him out in the same way when he was at AD Rattray. So to me, that shows that the whiskey world is like linked closely
Yeah.
with people. The network is so
Alex Bruce
important.
helped me out when I started. So Adelphi
Yeah.
helped me. Yeah, it's barring a few, and I've already mentioned Andrew Simonton, although he's helped people like Decadent Drinks and a few others. The industry's really close knit. And we ran a festival in March this year that was all independent bottlers. I think it was 43 different independent bottlers. And the camaraderie, the friendship between all of these companies, they're all off giving each other whiskeys and have try this and sending people to different stands. And when you're watching it, you're just thinking, what other industry does this? You know, you can imagine a car industry where somebody comes up to look at your saloon and you're like, no, go look at the Honda. The Hondas are
Yeah.
made. You'd be
Try,
fired instantly, you know.
why don't you try the Mercedes?
Yes, mate. Yeah, don't get this BMW. Buy the Mercedes. It's so
Yeah.
nice. It's such a friendly industry and atmosphere, and I've worked now with maybe a dozen independent bottlers as a consultant, and I'll be honest, I never ever charge. I've never charged anybody for my consultancy. It's all done for fun, friendship, the odd bottle of whiskey. You know, I've got one here that was a gift.
That was Dramful, right?
Yeah,
I just
great
saw
guys, great whiskeys.
Yeah.
If you guys want to go out on and have a great tasting at night, get Bruce from Dramful to come along. He is just the best guy.
I'll reach out.
Yeah, do it. He's so good, and his whiskeys are amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we had one in session 2. I think we had a Dramful in one of the sessions. But yeah.
But yes, it's an amazing industry. We're so helpful, and it's quite funny because a few people didn't get it, or when they started, and one example is Francis Cuthbert at Dathmill. So way back when he started his distillery, I was thinking of a distillery because supply for independent bottling was so bad, and I'd already met Francis. In fact, he got into whiskey by coming to one of my tastings, which how random is that? And I said, I'm just looking for help for maybe doing a distillery. And he wrote back and said, oh, my brother and I were thinking we would package this as a consultancy thing and we would sell it to the industry. And I wrote back and said, I don't think you understand what kind of industry this is because it's all friendly and helpful. And so I went down to the Norfolk distillery, the English whiskey distillery. They were the pioneers of the 1-ton mash, and they couldn't have been more helpful. And David Fitt, who was the manager, right? This is what we do, blah. This is what it cost. And for several reasons, maybe money being the biggest, I never did build a distillery, and I'm glad I didn't. But it is such a friendly industry and so helpful to each other. Yeah, it's great.
Do you feel that? I mean, it has been this way for 200 odd years. Can it stay that way in a very competitive world?
To a certain extent. Obviously, the big companies are an entity to themselves. I don't have friends at Chivas, Diageo, Beam Suntory, Ian McLeod, all these places. They're not people that I can ring up and say, should we meet up for a drink? Those apart, once you get past that level of investment and frankly their self-worth, what they think they're worth, and LVMH, which is Glenmorangie and Ardbeg, they're the absolute worst. They really believe they are the best in the industry and that everybody else is beneath them. They don't mix well with the rest of the industry. Once you get under that level, it is still very much a gentlemanly industry, and to the point where you might pay for your first few casks from somebody, but after that you get credit.
Mhm.
And it can be £100,000 worth of credit that this guy's trusting you with stock, and you move it, it's in your name, and you get 60 days to pay and these kind of things. That's quite weird. The people who are, for want of a better word, fucking it up for everybody are these investment bastards that are coming in, because they're ruining this gentleman side of the industry. Before, if I bought a cask from a broker, I bottle it and I sell it, and you guys are drinking it, and it's all fine. Everybody gets what they're supposed to get.
It's
Now,
transparent. I mean,
exactly. And now we're getting these guys who are selling you, they're buying a cask for maybe £2,000 and they're selling it for 8, 10, 12, 15. And it's not us. We know we're better, but it's the people just on the fringe. They're the ones getting hurt, and it's killing everything. But I think that's shifting as well. So we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see. But I hope it can remain that way. Certainly the independent side, we're still all good friends. We're good buddies. There's really not many bad eggs. I mean, if I can survive as long as I have, I think it's okay for the rest of the people. So yeah, it's still pretty good.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it also has something to do with the origin of all this whiskey, like Scotland, which is a very laid back people.
Yeah, to a certain extent, and the way the industry's been run, the fact that it's an export since World War II, it's been an export-driven drink.
Mhm.
So we went from it being 60% all drunk in the UK to 40% after World War II, and now we're at 7% or something of what we
Mhm.
create. So we know what we're doing goes abroad, and that kind of helps as well. It's nobody's really trampling on each other's patch within
Mhm.
the UK. We're all shipping everything we do abroad, and that really helps
Yeah,
too.
the playground
It gets
is
some of
large
the
enough.
yeah, yeah. But the people up here do tend to be far more social minded. Um, they're more brotherly, more neighborly. We're more rural. That helps.
Mhm.
We've only got a few big cities. Um, there's more people in central London than, there's twice as many people in Greater London as in Scotland. So that's why London's such an unfriendly city. There's so many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. We don't like people.
We
That's
love people. We don't like groups.
yeah. Maybe back to the bottle at hand here, Thompson Brothers. I think the road or the path they're on is really interesting. What they're doing with the distillery, and then the bottlings, of course. But they came from the Dornoch Castle Hotel, and now they're doing the distillery. And I mean, basically, they're going towards the future by looking at the past, something like that.
Yeah. They're two of the most exciting people in the industry, I think.
Hmm.
And if I don't know if you've had one of their Dornoch distillery bottlings in your
Yeah,
tastings,
yeah.
but what they can, I mean, the way I write it is that they make some of the best whiskey with the shittest equipment, because the distillery is horrific. It shouldn't make good whiskey, but Simon is such a geek.
Hmm.
He knows exactly what he's doing, and he researches to the absolute nth degree of everything. And Phil and Simon absolutely know what good whiskey is. They know what good prices are. They know how to keep it interesting, to not overpackage, to brand correctly. Although saying that, I bottled one for them and it was the worst label you've ever seen in your life. It just looked like a big bowl bag, really. That's what it looked like.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Well, you know about the story that they bottled a 30-year-old Isla for the Netherlands, and they put Belgian fries on the label.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's fun in itself. But yeah, I mean, I've got a box of the mystery malt.
Oh, I've got two of them here. Yeah, they're for one of the next tastings, I
Yeah.
guess.
So I've got
I
six.
love that idea.
Yeah. Genius idea. Absolutely
Oh
genius.
yeah, Absolutely genius. Yeah. And I think it's working because it's selling and everybody's posting about it and everybody's getting bottles. So yeah.
It's a
It's,
great lottery. I mean, if it's here, it's £65, and the worst thing
yeah.
you can get is a single cask Lockley 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I'll live with that. That's fine. And then the best, I think, is a 29-year-old or something. There's a
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
Ardmore in there for £65. So
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great idea. They're
Well,
such great guys. They really are.
yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. We actually did an online tasting with them a year and a half ago or something. Phil and Simon sat in the distillery and we did the tasting here in Belgium with 7 of their bottles. So yeah, that
Excellent.
was good fun with these guys. Another nerd out evening.
Oh
That
yeah,
one.
definitely.
For this one,
I'm curious about the next adventure. They are, what is it, building the Struy distillery, I think,
Yeah,
in the
Yeah,
block.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, something to look out for.
definitely. The plans are amazing. The views will be amazing. It's just 300 or 400 yards from the back of the castle. Um, they have an old Victorian building that will be the visitor center. Yeah, it's going to be completely sustainable with solar power and wind, with a surplus of power. So yeah, just an incredible. I mean, there's so many distilleries being built, but I back them because it's one of the few. It's like Kythe. It
Yeah,
excites me. I'm interested. So many of
yeah,
them are people announcing they're building a distillery, and then you say, "Well, what are you doing? Why, we don't need another Speyside distillery. We don't need another Fife distillery. We don't need another Islay distillery. So what is your USP? What are you building that will make me want to buy?" But
Mhm.
with Angus and Johnny at Kythe and Phil and Simon, they are my peers. All right, they're younger than me, but they're people who excite me. I know they're going to make interesting whiskey
Mm.
because they're interesting people and they've already shown that what they do is interesting. So
indeed.
Strui's
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
a
would
great.
be a shame if it never happened, but it will. They've got the money already, so we'll see.
Just a small little anecdote. I was in Dornoch in 2012 for a week. I was traveling around Scotland with my girlfriend then. She was very pregnant at the time. But at that time, I knew about Dornoch Castle Hotel, but I didn't know anything about Phil or Simon or what they were doing or what they were trying to do. So I really didn't spend much time in the hotel. I should have spent more time at the bar there, I think. But there you go. Some tasting notes quickly before we go on to the next one. Swimming pool was a nice one. I found in this one. Farm shed. Lots of people had some smoke and some peatiness and some stuff like that in here. So an interesting dram, I think. This 15-year-old Craigellachie.
I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite Dornoch bottlings or Thompson Brother bottlings.
No,
I wouldn't want a bottle of it, but it is
okay.
interesting.
It's good that you don't need to buy a bottle of everything you try, David, because otherwise. All right, number 6. I was another one. I was really curious about all of the participants' reactions to this one. I'll have you taste it while I'm going through it, David. Just over 50%. Most of people were thinking it's 53.9 actually. A 9 to 12-year-old was most people's guesses. Actually, this is quite a lot younger. This is a 5-year-old, bottle 2018, bottle 2023, bourbon cask. And again, I awarded points because it says hogshead quarter casks, but I'm quite sure this should be bourbon. It's a single malt, indeed. And when you see who bottled it, well, the distillery here, it's Glenwivis. And then probably if it's independently bottled, Glenwivis, we're with Berry Brothers and Rudd in their Pioneer series. I have the bottle here. This is the one. And I actively went searching for a bottle of this because one of your other books, David, is about pioneering spirits, about the young distilleries in Scotland, and I really wanted one of these in the tasting, in this tasting. So tell us about this one, this distillery, because you had a visit there, I think.
Yeah, one of the most staggering views of any of the distilleries. I think that's what sort of surprised me more than anything else was actually the distillery, not because they're too young for us to judge. It'd be
Yeah.
like meeting a bunch of 5-year-old kids, and then when they're adults, telling them that they were all precocious or something. Um,
You were an idiot when you were
yeah,
5 year
it's
old.
right. You're clearly an idiot because when you were 5, you're an idiot. It's too young, and for those distilleries who maybe peak at 5 years old, good luck with the rest of their lives. But you climb up past Dingwall, and when you get to the top and look back, the view is absolutely epic. It's just stunning. It's about 180 degree of view around from the distillery out. I know they're having serious issues with the farmer who was one of the um, what do you call it? The creator of the distillery. He's next door. He's trying to sell his farm for for the same amount as money as it cost the distillery to be built.
Okay.
So at the moment, there's no visitors. They're having all sorts of issues and problems. And I think they've lost their way a little bit. So few people have heard of them.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're whiskey geeks. We've heard of them. That's fine. I've got it in my book. But when you go to an average whiskey show and you say to somebody Glenwivis, or you hear them see the stand and say, "Well, I've never, who is this Glen? I've never heard." They seem to have lost a little bit of their way as far as getting their name out there. And I think
Like the
maybe,
momentum of
yeah.
yeah.
And you need that when you start because they need the income. They're just a small startup. It's all driven by local help and volunteers and investment, and they really really uh, need that exposure
Hmm.
is the word I'm looking for, in a way that some of the other ones have been absolutely brilliant about. Ardnamurchan, it's not an issue for them. Everybody's heard about Ardnamurchan.
Yeah.
Glasgow's not. Where is my ball? They're doing much better.
Yeah. Necknean is another one, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much better, much better. So Glenwivis, they're flailing a little bit. The funny thing is, I've just tried their latest independent release, and that was for the Highlander Inn
Okay.
in Craigellachie. Tatsuya picked a cask totally different to this. You
Okay.
couldn't be more different.
But
Far more full-bodied. It was a sherry cask, but far more full-bodied. Didn't taste 5 years old. This nose is young, and you can see everybody was guessing this is quite young.
yeah. Is it a viable or a good strategy for like a young distillery like Glenwivis to like put out some casks with independent bottlers?
Yeah, I think so. I'm biased, but
Hmm.
I think what it allows them is they're not losing money with it, first of all. In fact, they'll make a little bit of money because they'll sell them the cask. Almost always they're given um, preference on how they appear on the label.
Hmm.
So Berry Brothers will have reached out and said, "Are you okay with this label?" So they know what's going. They know obviously the whiskey that's going, so they can be part of the approval process of that as well.
Hmm.
But here you've got Berry Brothers who are internationally acclaimed. They have distribution in Japan, Taiwan, Australia, probably
Hmm.
South Africa, all of mainland Europe, America, Canada, and suddenly you've got Glenwivis in their bottle, and now people that had never heard of Glenwivis before
Hmm.
are drinking Glenlivet whiskey for the first time. A really good example would be Filey Bay. So Filey Bay, Yorkshire distillery, not very large, fantastic people that run it, fantastic whiskey. Berry Brothers did a release, and it wasn't even cheap. I think it might have been £119 a bottle.
This isn't cheap.
No, it wouldn't be. Nothing
No.
they do is cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sold out in minutes.
Yeah.
Absolutely sold out in minutes. And it put Filey Bay on the lips of people that in London and elsewhere that maybe have never heard of the distillery before. So I see it only as a benefit if they're in control of what's going on. I
Yeah.
don't think they need to be selling bulk whiskey,
No.
but if they're approaching the right independent bottlers, and I think we'll see a bit more of it happening because I've heard lots of bottlers saying, "Oh, we're working with so and so now, or we've been allowed to buy cash from so and
Hmm.
so." Ardnamurchan has a program of, is it 4 a year or something, or 6 casks a year that they let independents choose from.
Yeah.
I
There's
think
also
I
like
think it's really good.
I think another one that does it that way is Inchderny. They're releasing some
They've
stuff
released a few.
independent.
Finlassie they've done
Yeah.
with James Eady and one other. Um,
I'll
yeah,
I'll
they've
I'll,
done a few.
I'll ask the question a little differently. So this is for like a young new distillery looking for a place in the market, but I sometimes suspect of named big name distilleries of when they are like relaunching a core range of also releasing at the same time a number of casks to independent distillers, independent bottlers, sorry, just to get the name all over the place. I mean, there was a couple of years ago, everybody was bottling Vettercairns, for example, and I sometimes you see these coincidences that do seem too coincidental to me.
What happens there is somebody will have a seam of Vettercairns, and it will not be coming from Angus Dundee, who own Vettercairn. It'll be one of the companies they supply bulk whiskey to, who suddenly don't need 50, 60 casks, 100 casks, whatever it is. And they'll sell it to they'll get a broker involved, and the broker will split it into parcels of 5 or 10. And he'll contact all the independent bottlers who then pick up these 5 or 10 each. And that's why you see so many similarities between what they bottle. I wouldn't think any of the distillers are doing that to get their name about if they're trying to promote their own single malt. If they're a big company, I wouldn't see it at all. But the best example, obviously, is Diageo, that opened their warehouses up and were selling all the malts that they don't bottle themselves, the Dalyuans, the Ben Rinners, and so on. They wouldn't be selling big piles of Mortlach, Glenord, even, they don't sell a huge amount of Dufton either, because it's Singleton of Dufton, which is the one we get. Taiwan gets the Singleton of Glenord, which is much better, and we get Dufton. I think yours might be. It's not Dufton in Europe. What's the other one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Glendullan, I think.
Glendullan, yeah.
Oh, we're getting the Dufton. The
Glendullan. Okay. Sorry about that.
Glendullan's going to the States.
Glendullan is USA, yeah.
Oh, is it USA? Okay. Well, the best one of those three is Ord anyway, so that's going to the Far East. But
and there used to be a
they're not releasing that kind of stuff.
There used to be a Singleton of a Thrusk, and that was actually
the original was a Thrusk. They called it Singleton because nobody could say a Thrusk.
Exactly.
Not the best
quite
one
good,
either.
in fact.
Well, the vintage ones were terrible.
All right. Well, pioneering spirits. If you're into these kinds of new distilleries, which is like Brave New World, I think, in some ways, lots of stuff happening there. Good to read about them. I have to give a shout out to Vincent again, who guessed this bottle exactly by tasting blindly. He in the wild guess he said Glenlivet 2018 Berry Brothers and Rudd. So extra points, Vincent, for that one.
Yay!
Hey, there you go.
The stupid thing is, I think with this one, I always put in a wild guess, except for the third sample. And now I see I wrote North Star blended malt. So I should have guessed that one as well.
Yeah.
So
good
night.
Hey, good brag, Vincent. Good brag.
My wife will be very impressed.
She will be very impressed.
Yeah.
I'm sure. All right, cool. Well, we have a word cloud for Glenlivet. Citrus, grassy. Yeah, I get it. It's young, of course. And some other stuff. Oreo cookies is completely the other way, I think. Then, and then also dirty and moldy. Okay. As I keep repeating, I always love these word clouds to see what people are getting in these samples. So, yeah. All right. You enjoy this one, David?
A bit young, a bit
young.
grassy.
Yeah.
I think for me, too much new make still. And as you say, this wasn't cheap. I think these things have to be cheap because they're simply a work in progress.
Yes.
And then when they're expensive, there's been a few bottlers, the one near me, Annandale, when they were selling their 3-year-old at £130 a bottle, and it's a work in progress. All you do is worry about what it's going to cost when it's finished.
Yeah. I think the ones that did it really well was Kilkerran.
Yes.
Who started releasing bottles just with the same name, just called
Yeah.
it work in progress.
Yeah.
And same thing with the heavily peated they did. So it was fun to follow that process. And these bottles were affordable at the time, not anymore. But there you go. All right, sample number 7. We're doing well on time, guys. That's good. Sample number 7. Some agreement that this was on the higher scale of the ABV scale. This is the one that has the highest ABV of all the ones that we're tasting today, 59.7. Age-wise, somewhere in the middle there. And yes, this is a 13-year-old. Oloroso cask, most people were guessing. It's a first fill sherry hogshead, according to the label. So I don't know if it's Oloroso PX or any other one. Some discussion, and this was interesting in the comments and the word cloud too. Some discussion about, is this a single malt or a single grain? David, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to go single malt, but it doesn't surprise me at all that a lot of people have said single grain.
Yeah, it is a single malt. There you go. And that also explains why 3 people are going for Invergordon and 3 other people are going for Ben Rins. It is a Milton Duff, this one. Signatory bottling. No, it's G&M, Gordon MacPhail bottling. It's this one. I found this one. This was bottled for the 100th anniversary of Van Wees in 2021. So it's an older bottling. But I was kind of triggered by it, and I really wanted to put it in this tasting. Just to read some of the extra comments before we go to what you guys think. Somebody guessed this is a Canadian corn 8-year-old. Water isn't helpful. The one with the biggest oomph in the lineup, and another wild guess was the North British 2011 by What Whiskey. Why is there so much confusion between single malt and single grain on this one, do you think, David?
It just has that bit of varnish note about it. The sherry has added a quite wheaty, paint strippery kind of note to it. A candied note, very candied actually.
I'm just nosing it right now. So
I mean, the Canadian corn thing's quite interesting. It's not a million miles away from it. It really isn't. And the really sad thing about that is an 8-year-old Canadian corn probably costs about 30 euros a bottle.
Yep. This one costs about 4 times more. So
exactly, yeah. Precis.
Yeah.
When it comes like that, you know it's expensive.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Gordon MacPhail. These bottlings they used to also have like more affordable, cheaper stuff, but most of what they're doing now is getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. It's beginning to hurt them because the consumers turned off.
Yep.
They went seriously premiumized in the last sort of 5 years. And I mean, everybody was joking that it was to pay for the Cairn distillery, which must have cost a fortune. But it has hurt their core customer. You used to be able to buy Gordon MacPhail, the distillery label bottlings were in Belgium probably 35, 40 euros a bottle, and they're now probably 65 euros plus. And it's the same stuff. So you wonder why it's suddenly gone up in value. But if you go back, and you can do this because it's on Company's House, you can go back and look at their profits, and they just soar. In the last 10 years, they double and double again. And a lot of that is because of these old casks and rare casks, and they found a market for them. And I remember talking to one of the owners, one of the Rankins, and he was saying that during one of the years, they could have sold all of their private collection to Germany, all of it. That's millions and millions of pounds worth to one market. They can't do that now. That market's fallen out because the auction sites are now selling them less than what the retail sites are.
Yeah.
So that's disappeared for them. So I think they're going to have a little rethink. And if you look at what's going on with the company, they lost their CEO and then another one's gone as well. And that's all within a couple of years. So clearly something's not going all that well with them. But then they've said, they're not going to be independent bottlers in the future. So
Yeah.
they're just eking out final bits of their stock for the next 20 years.
Yeah, which was a surprising announcement a couple of years ago for a lot of people. Did it surprise you?
The bit that surprised me was that they announced it.
Yeah.
They didn't need to tell anybody.
No,
Nobody
it's
no.
30 years from now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was no need to announce it whatsoever. It was as if they were suddenly saying that independent bottling was a dirty word,
Yeah.
and that they're only going to get rid of their stocks because now we're distillers and we're special. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that. I would have, it would have been an absolute trade secret. I wouldn't have told anybody at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they're such a private family company anyway. Why announce it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
absolutely.
the odd bit.
Yeah.
The industry, within the circles of the industry, we knew that Beam had stopped supply. We knew that Diageo were cutting off certain things. Um, Everybody was scrambling for stock, and suddenly they said, "We don't need to sell you this anymore, so we're not going to." So we knew behind the scenes that their business model was changing, but they didn't need to say they were going to stop. They could have said, "Our model's changing," and then who knows, in 10 years, suddenly the distilleries might be emailing them again saying, "By the way, would you like to buy some stock?"
Yeah.
By saying they're no longer independent bottler, they've kind of cut that bridge. So yeah, it's a strange one. Very
Yeah.
strange.
I'll give you a quote from the book again, a quote by Mark Watts in your book about G&M. A strange case for me is G&M, and I mean that with the greatest of respect because they are such a big company with a long history of bottling and such large offerings under the distillery labels. They never really felt like an independent bottler when I first started. They were more semi-official bottlers, but obviously that was just my perspective then. They are a kind of a strange, how do you say it? It's not English, but a strange duck in the pond.
Yeah, they're a strange breed. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the black sheep of the family, but it's the reverse. We're all the black sheep, and Gordon MacPhail was the white sheep.
Yeah.
They had a unique scenario. They had a unique business model. Very well respected by distillers. Bottlers kind of avoided them because they were so different. They weren't dealing in the same way we were. But yeah, just an odd company. They do have some excellent staff there now. If you go up to their shop in Elgin, they've got excellent staff. They've got really, really good guys. But it seems to me the emphasis on their future is the Cairn and Ben Romack and whatever else they intend to do. The Cairn's an even odder distillery to me because you go there and there's almost no mention about Gordon MacPhail.
Okay.
They've got 3 or 4 blends there that are all very, very expensive. There's no Ben Romack. There's no Gordon MacPhail bottlings. It's a strange situation.
Okay. Is that also because I was, of course, researching a little bit for this tasting and for other tastings? In the back end of your book, you have like a section with different independent bottlers, but Gordon and MacPhail isn't in there.
No,
they are in the book, of course. They're all over the book, but then I noticed that also Signatory Vintage doesn't have a separate part in that section of the book.
Andrew has his own chapter.
Oh yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Mainly because I see him as sort of the godfather of the modern independent bottlers.
There's a good quote about him too, about him being the first, the best, and the biggest of the modern independent bottlers. So yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is, and he paved the way. No, without Andrew, you don't really even have modern Cadenheads. It took him to come along and show the quality of the whiskey that was being blended into oblivion. And that's Andrew's lasting legacy. And I know people can say, well, we had Samaroli and we had Moon Imports and things like that. We didn't really, because outside of just a tiny little circle, nobody knew about it. Yeah, a niche within a niche. Andrew came along and suddenly brought it to much bigger markets. He broke France, he broke Germany, he broke the Far East, America, things like that. So without Andrew, we don't have the modern independent bottling world, definitely. So that's why I gave him his own chapter, because I tipped my hat to him. And he went through hell for the first 5 or 6 years before he started making any money. So he did really, really well. But even he now is a strange duck in the pond, as you say to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Doesn't move in the same circles that we do. There's no representation. You don't see signatory at a festival.
No, it's always through the distributors or the importers that.
Yeah, and you buy on trust. You
Yeah.
don't get to go try it. There's no, as I say, there's no brand ambassador. You don't get to go to the whiskey festival in Ghent and go try signatory whiskies unless the importers got them on the stand.
And they usually don't have them.
No, there's no need.
It's
So
only
it's a
on
very different
their own
model.
festival at Spirits in the Sky that the signatory bottles open. But as you
Right.
say, there's no need because everybody buys them anyway.
Yeah, when you can compete on price.
Yeah, absolutely. The Milton Duff here, bottled for Van Wees in the Netherlands. These are the tasting notes. Yeah, the red fruit, the berries, that was like a thread running
Baby
through
puke.
all these. Sorry?
Baby puke.
Yeah, baby puke. I think it was
when I
actually
first nosed
acidic
that.
baby puke.
Yeah,
Acidic
when I
baby
first
puke.
nosed it, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Baby puke. I was quite surprised when you told me what it was because I got the baby puke. I thought that can't be a really expensive bottling, but it is.
Last year, David, we did a whole series, 7 sessions about world whiskies. I'll send you the tasting notes for them. There were some really fun ones in there, and by fun I mean
did you do the peated Santis?
no, that wasn't in there.
Oh my God.
No,
That's
I'm
the worst whiskey. To this day, that's the worst whiskey I've ever had.
as I said earlier to Eric, I'm a bad person. I'm not that bad. But we did have some really bad ones in there. Some of the Belgian ones come to mind. But there you go.
And the Dutch one with the horse on the cork.
Oh, Frisky.
Friskinder.
Oh,
Yeah, Friskinders, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Templis Igni was worse, the Belgian one.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a couple more of them. There was also the other Belgian one, the balloon one. I'll think of it later on.
Distill.
Wave Distill. Chris is here. Yeah, Chris is the biggest fan of Wave Distill in Belgium.
I'd rather drink bleach.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go to the last one in the session, guys. Well, I already announced which independent bottler was certainly represented in this one, so that one is not a surprise anymore, I think. ABV 57.1, also that must be a clue because he always goes on about this being his favorite bottling strength. Well, this one was thought of quite a bit older than it actually is because it's a 5-year-old in your bottle now. Bourbon cask. I reached out to Mark, it's what whiskey, of course, and he told me the last cask it was in was a refill sherry butt. It's not a single malt, this is a blend. Real blend, so there's some North British in there, which gives away a little bit. Also, North British is in there, and there's some single malt there, so it's a blend. It's a blend actually of officially. It's what whiskey. This is the funny one, and it's a shame that Mark isn't here because this one is the only one in the colors, if you noticed it, that's all over the place, all kinds of different colors, while Mark is actually the one promoting the idea of colors. For him, it's like light turquoise blue. For you guys, it's mostly red. It's the peat smoke on Orgy. This one. I mean, this was one I got a couple bottles of when it was released, and I always thought, oh, I'm going to put this in tastings just because of the story. You know this one quite well too, I guess, David?
Yep.
So it's a blend of North British. The single malt, I don't think he really knows what it is, but it was finished. The last cask was an ex-Macallan cask, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly. And the name, he actually did a Facebook thing on what should we call it, and people could put in names. And the idea was peat smoke, of course, because it's peated. And then I don't know the exact story anymore. David, do you know it?
I can't remember. He has told me, but I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what whiskies are in it. I think it is Inchmoan from Loch Lomond.
Yeah, I think so. And there was a reference in the name on to the two places it came from or something. That was the idea. But as Mark always says, Mark Dermul, it's not that important to know exactly what is in there to enjoy it. So
True words, true words.
truer words have never been spoken.
Exactly.
Two people have put in extra comments on this, and they both refer to Campbelltown. Somebody guessed this was Campbelltown from Cadenheads, and Tom, I think that I could swear there's a Campbelltown layer at the background. Why these? Where does it come from? You're muted, Tom.
Sorry, I had some kind of that Campbelltown funkiness at the back. So I thought it was Campbelltown.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad shout at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely got that oily, ashy, funky note that you say, definitely.
No.
It's not actually a million miles away from that, which is a 5-year-old Kilkerran bottled by Cadenheads.
No.
So good shout.
This is not a bad value for money whiskey, right?
No, it's not at all. And
this was very affordable.
got so many layers to it as well.
Mm.
You don't need to like vanilla, and you're going to need to like smoke, but it's got so much going on.
Yeah. I'll before we go to the scores and whatever what people thought about well, what people guessed right. One last quote from the book. Because yeah, you wrote the book, David, so why not quote it, right?
Thank you.
It's a quote from Mark actually quotes Oliver Chilton from Elixir Distillers, and he says, Oliver always claims that you can feel an independent bottler's personality coming through in their whiskies, and people should find an independent bottler that they like the style of. More often than not, they will like their style, whether it's from a distillery they know of or not. This is certainly the case for companies like ours, where there are only two people picking what is being bottled rather than picking by committee. I do tend to agree with this, and I always ask independent bottlers when I meet them for like the podcast or whenever, what is different? What do you do different from all the other bottlers? What is your style? What is your profile? Whatever. Do you believe in this, David?
To a certain extent, because we all have our favorites and we all have our own palate. And personally, I'm very averse to sulfur. I really cannot get on with sulfury whiskies at all. The baby puke thing as well. Other people it's not an issue for them whatsoever. So you're going to find certain traits. I'm not a big fan of new make either. So when I taste a whiskey that I think is too young, you just leave it. I'm just not going to bottle it. And there are certainly with the smaller bottlers, you will find that Dramful is a really good example. Bruce and Colin, his business partner, definitely their personality runs through what they bottle. Other bottlers, you couldn't say that about Signatory, and that's still one guy picking the casks. There's no theme to what Andrew picks and bottles.
Also because there's such a large turnout, of course.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost impossible. And also when you're bottling so many different distilleries, how can you have a style if I mean, even in creative days, I think we did 112 different distilleries. So you can't pick an Auchentoshan that fits my preferred flavor profile because Auchentoshan is always going to be much lighter in style. You can't pick if for any reason I didn't like smoky whiskey. Well, you're probably going to fail as an independent bottler anyway, because you should be bottling smoky whiskey when you get it. But some people don't like Kalila, for instance, or they don't like Lafroig, well, I happen to absolutely love Lafroig, especially independent bottlings of it. So my style is definitely more in the spicier range, and I'm much more a finish-driven guy than I am a palate-driven guy. In fact, you can have a crap palate if the nose and the finish are great, for me personally. I don't mind if the palate disappears if the finish is full of fruit and the nose is full of something. My big issue is the lack of a finish, especially with old whiskeys as well. So there were quite a few times when I bought old casks and the finish would just disappear. And you think, well, if I bottle that and it's 150 pounds, this is going back nearly 20 years. If that's 150 pounds a bottle, and you've spent that, and you go, well, it's gone, it's disappeared, you would be disappointed. So there are certain people that do let their personality show through the bottlings. But at the same time, as I said, there's too much variation to really have a complete style. When it gets to blends, we're in a different thing. So Mark's blends, I tend to actually prefer to some of his single malts, just because I think the way they're put together, often it's only 2 or 3 distillates. So yeah, I don't know.
Does an independent bottler bottle for himself or bottle for the public?
A bit of both. A bit of both. You've got to be commercially minded. You've got to also understand that certain markets prefer different styles. The running joke of the industry, and I apologize if any of you are German, but the running joke is that if you do come across a blackened sulfury whiskey, it goes to Germany and the Germans love it.
Yep.
The smokier they are, the more likely they're going to sell in Scandinavia, not in the UK. We don't drink smoky whiskies. We're just smoke averse. We've been trained to think smoky whiskies are weird, whereas Scandinavia and Northern Europe, not so much. But at the same time, I've always said, and Mark says, and Ollie says, and all these guys say, we have to stand up in front of you lot or anybody else and, say that we would buy this, that we would drink it.
Yep.
And
Stand by your product. Stand by your own.
Mark's point there about a committee is you can deflect it. Oh, well, I didn't pick this one. Well, why are you here then? You should be able to stand behind your product, as you say. So I got it wrong on occasion, and there's a 4-part movie about independent bottlers where Mark makes a very funny joke about getting casks wrong, and Adrian from Claxons talk about one that he bottled, and we do get it wrong from time to time. If you're bottling 100, 200 casks a year, you're bound to, at some point, your palate's just going to let one go, let one fly through. So I bottled, some of you may remember, I bottled the Glenturret 1994, which should never, ever have seen the inside of a bottle. So I apologize for that one, but it happens.
I'll look for a bottle of that to put into a next blind tasting session.
Please don't. That'll be my name will be Mud. David said this was his favorite.
Yeah. Also, that just reminds me of the last session we had was with Jeroen Moernout from London Graham Cave for Craft Spirits, and he asked me to ask you about the Ben Nevis that nearly ruined you when you first started out.
Oh, this would be a 1966.
Probably. Is that correct?
68, I think. 68.
Ben, he said 66, but there you go.
I've got it up here. Oh, somewhere. Hidden. Oh, is it? It's back there somewhere. I need a step ladder. Too short. Yeah. It was bought from the stables of White Mackay, who had the worst reputation for gauging casks. So that's dipping a cask to tell you what's inside. And I bought these 2 casks with probably something like 60 liters of alcohol in each. Sold one of them to my best customer, which was Jack Weber's Whiskey World in Berlin, who put them in his old train line. And when I bottled it, I think I got something like 30 liters, half of what I bought.
Okay.
So Jack was very angry. He accused me of taking half of it for myself, which wasn't the case. I'm a very honest businessman. But there was nothing I could do. You can't. What do you do? Go back to White Mackay and ask them to give you money back? It wasn't bought from them, bought from a broker. There was nothing I could do. So incredibly, I bought those 2 1968 Ben Nevises, which were astonishingly good whiskey. And I don't think I made any money on it. They're the breaks. Them be the breaks, as we say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So
And it would have
Jeroen,
been a fortune to me at the time.
Jeroen will be happy that I asked you the question.
He's a great guy,
He
Jeroen.
is. He is. He is. I like him. He's got a good name, So,
Yes, yes.
uh, what whiskey Pete Smoke on Gorgie? I'll just go to the. There you go. The word clouds. Complex vanilla red fruit. Yeah, all sort of. I think these are all like good tasting notes
Hmm.
that people show that
Yeah.
people enjoy it.
Tobacco, definitely tobacco, cacao, hazelnut, baking spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. All this I would have come up with.
There you go. All right. That was the 8 samples we have tasted for this session. Now on to the results of the Belgian jury, I guess. Let's go through this quickly. So these were just briefly all the different categories. These are the ABVs and the number of times they were guessed correctly. As I said, you're getting better at this, guys. The last couple sessions were less than 38 correct guesses, so good on you. You're getting worse on the ages.
Some of them were hard.
Some
Some of
of
them
them are
were
really
really
hard, yeah.
hard. I
It's
don't think I got any right.
Nah. It's also because these people are expecting me to always put like 6 or 7-year-old whiskeys in the tasting, and most of these were older. So, yeah, there you go. As I said, I'm not a bad person. I only pretend to be. The casks, pretty good cask, guys and girls, I have to say, Marek and Doreen. Thank you. So you're pretty good at this. Only the Manzanilla hogshead was a bit more difficult, also because it's like an outlier, I guess. So yeah. The distilleries, all of them were guessed correctly at some point by at least one person. So pretty well done. This is the hardest one, and that's why I put the quote on you, because it's very hard to really like recognize a distiller or an independent bottler in this case. But still, some good guesses, I think, on this one. This one is maybe the most interesting. Would you buy a bottle of this sample? So what this means, David, the further you go to the right, the further you go towards the purple one, is the more inclined people are to buy a bottle of this. So it's interesting to see that sample. I think 1 and 3, but also 8. There's a lot of the big green bar there on the Peat Smoke on Gorgie. So yeah, would be is interesting to see. And these are the scores that people gave. So you got the average all the way on the right there, and you get the lowest score, the highest score that people gave. And what ended up on top score-wise is the Peat Smoke by a couple points, and then all the rest are really close together, all around that 80-point mark. So overall, pretty well scored for these whiskeys. Interesting to see also that the Watt whiskey, the lowest score that anybody gave was 78, which is in these sessions quite high. We came from sessions where the scores like 30 and 40 out of 100. So 78 is quite high. I think it's the highest we ever had, the highest low score we ever had in all of these sessions. So I'll be sure to send Mark that info. And then the next slide is I asked you to put the 8 samples in your order of preference. So a 1 means you put it on the first. So the lower the score in total, the better for the whiskey. And also here, what whiskey ends up on top 5 times put on number 1. And what I find interesting on this one is that the 3 top ones are all of the younger bottlers, the newer bottlers. What Whiskey, Electric Coup, and North Star Spirits. So I don't know if that means anything, but it was interesting to see on this. You see, I like Excel files, David. So so okay, and then we go on to this is an interesting one. This is the graph of the most positive reviewer of the group. So Mark is still, on average, the most positive reviewer of the group with 85.69 on average for all the scores. And he was in the last years too. But Tom and Vincent are pretty positive to these guys. This is, as I said a couple times already, guys, this is mainly of interest to yourself to see how you score things. And you see that everybody's quite consistent in their scoring. There's not much. I mean, people like Sebastian and Marek who score lower, they score consistently lower. So for them, it makes sense. And that's the most important thing, I think. But it's fun to keep all these graphs and data on everybody. I'll use this someday to blackmail you or whatever. We'll see what happens. Then the next one, the best person ABV wise. So who knows his alcohol the best? That's Tom. This session, 6 out of 8 were correct. So well done, Tom. Pretty good. And on average, you're also on top. Lots can change. We've got 4 more sessions to go. Then on age, Tom again. Hey, well done, Tom. You're doing pretty well there. Cask-wise, Jan Willem, you're doing well. And for this session, 4 people, 6 out of 8 were correct. So Jan Willem, Mark, Erik, Schroyes, and Chris Kottenier. So that's, yeah. You guys know your casks, I guess. Distillery guesses, which is probably the hardest one. Kevin, you're doing really well. You're on top there together with Eric Lievre. Vincent, you got some good points this one. You were the best for this session. And the independent bottler guessing, I think this is mostly guesses, but there you go. And then we've got the overall scores. Eric, you're on top at this moment with 41 points. Vincent, as I said, I gave you some extra points this one because with your extra guesses, you were right. So that's on you. And the winners for this session are Vincent, Jan Willem, and Erik. Erik Schroyes, you won a session. Well done, man.
Oh.
And I know you did this session after you did some sample testing, some sample tasting. So
I had to taste first 16 samples and then the 8 samples. So my palate was trained.
Your palate was trained. There you go. So that was it for this session, guys. Any last comments from any of you? Anything you would like to add?
Jeroen, I have a question for David.
No.
David, how about your Stirk Brothers label? Because I don't think we cannot buy it in Belgium.
Yeah, that's a short-lived affair. It's a long story, but I was opening a shop in England, so we created that brand to sell through the shop and then through a few trusted importers like Whiskey Import Netherlands. But the shop fell through, so the stock that I had for that brand, I'm actually now using with another bottler to help them.
Okay.
So there's no future Stirk Brothers bottlings, unfortunately.
Okay.
I've got a couple bottles left. If you ever make it to Scotland, we'll open one.
Yeah.
Does it itch to start bottling again, David?
No, not for me. There's so many bottlers, and the market conditions now are. It's not right to start a new business and try and pump it out. I've done that and I've done the traveling and everything. I'm much more enjoying helping other bottlers with their projects and things, and it seems to have moved past me now. I'm the old boy. I was the young enfant terrible, and now I'm the veteran. So,
you're saying young Padawan to people now.
Yes. I'm just watching all these guys doing that, and I go, I remember doing that. And it's a different world. There are so many bottlers now. It's crazy, and some will fall away because there's too many. I'm not sure we're attracting the next generation of drinkers like we did for our generation. Again, we're all kind of a similar age, and I don't see the 20 plus people getting in. I think it's now turned into mum and dad's drink. We'll see what happens. They're going to have to change up a bit. Price wise, it's going to have to come down. It's too expensive, especially with the taxes that our countries have. Crazy, crazy taxes. So there are other options, other possibilities. I don't know what it's like in Belgium, but certainly beer sales here are falling at quite a considerable rate. And we rely on heavy consumption of shit beer. I know you rely on much lighter consumption of really good beer, which is maybe where we should go. That would be better for us.
I think there's a lot of consumption of shit beer in Belgium too.
I mean, what you consider shit, like Jupiler, I absolutely love.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite beers.
I'll cut this out. I'll edit this out, David.
Don't forget our beer is Tennant's, which is chemical animal waste. So when we go get Brandt or Hertog Jan or Jupiler or all the others, we're like, wow, this is amazing. So
you know what we'll do when you're in Belgium? We'll first do a tasting with your whiskeys, and then the next day we'll do a Belgian beer tasting, and I'll show you what Belgian beer should be.
I did a tasting at a bar called Quickies Bar. I can't remember where it is. Somewhere in Belgium. Huge selection of Belgian beers, like the one in Ghent, that has the menu. And I swear we did 7 whiskeys, and he gave me about 20 Belgian beers. And I was with Bart.
I know. I think
I can't remember his last name. Driving home, I slept the whole way. He was talking the whole way, and I just fell asleep. All those Belgian beers, the just non-stop. The only ones I can't drink are the sour ones. So at least I didn't have any sour beers. But it was crazy. Just because I made the mistake of saying I love Belgian beers, and that was a mission to him then to find all the ones I'd never drunk before. Quickies Bar. I can't remember where it is. I'll have to find out.
I don't know which one that is.
Yeah.
Any other questions for David, guys?
Maybe one, David. In your book, you are apologizing to Suzanne about your myth-busting details about Christmas and Elvis. Can we know more about it? Because I'm really wondering what it could have been.
Sorry, so I'm apologizing to
Suzanne.
In which book is that, Eric?
Yeah, which one?
The Independent Scotch. Wait, I need to find back the page now and what it was all about. But I noted and said, oh, what could it be? It was about making bad jokes and giggling and all this.
I only have 2 Suzannes that I know. I've got my niece, and then there's Suzanne in America who's a journalist. But I don't remember.
I believe this one is a journalist. Wait. I need to find out where it was. Not that important, but I read it. I said, hey. And another thing I noticed in your book, you don't really like one of the whiskey writer, one of the expert. I don't know what happened between the two of you, but you're not quite mild with him, huh?
Yeah, well, I nearly worked for him, and this is Jim Murray. So when I joined Whiskey Magazine, he was still one of the contributing tasters. So my job was to do the tastings in the magazine, take them all in and edit them and then publish them. And Michael Jackson, who was the other taster, who was a beer guy, actually, he was more famous for his Belgian beer knowledge than he was whiskey. He couldn't have been nicer. He was just the sweetest, nicest man to deal with. So pleasant. Terrible at giving me his tasting notes. He was always late, but always so pleasant and so humble. Jim Murray, on the other hand, was aggressive. He was a bully, and he truly believed that what he said about a whiskey was fact. Mm-hmm. That if he said a whiskey was bad, it was bad. If he said it smelled of paint stripper, it smelled of, he just had this idea that because he'd been tasting whiskey 10 years longer than everybody else, he was the god. And that's why it's called the Bible, his whiskey Bible, because he really believes he's some sort of whiskey god. And when I first started getting into whiskey, I read all of his books, and I really did think he was this great whiskey person. So I very nearly worked for him, and I quit my job at Whiskey Magazine. And I got a phone call that night from my boss, who was a guy called Marcin Miller, who's still in the industry. And Marcin said, look, you're free to go, but I just want to tell you that we fired Jim this morning. And they fired him because he was bullying their staff. He was bullying the people doing advertising. And I think that the last straw was Ladyburn, released in 1974, and they sent him a 10 cl, like 3 of those samples, and he emailed them in capital letters. This is outrageous. I must have a full bottle to do my tasting note. So you don't need a full bottle to do a tasting note. I mean, Mark's nodding. We know you don't need a full bottle. 10 cl is enough. But it's because he would stick them in his shelves and pretend that he has this great big whiskey collection of all this free whiskey. And the publishers just said, you know what, we've had enough. You've pissed off one of our biggest advertisers. You're gone. And that was the end of it. So to this day, I still, when I see Marchin, I thank him for saving me, because that would have been the worst thing I ever did to have. But he's the one at the beginning who told me, you'll never be an expert, because only I'm an expert. And I like to say, there is no expert. You're an expert. Everybody is an expert on what they like. There is no one expert on what whiskey tastes like. And that's why I love people like Serge Valentin and Mark and others who will always tell you it is just their opinion. And if you like the whiskey, that's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm just giving you my opinion. But yeah, Jim and I have never spoke since.
Yeah,
not because I won't, but because he won't.
And in your book, it's Susan Webster.
Oh yes, Susan. Yeah.
You could
Sorry.
spend at least one afternoon a week trying to make the other cry with laughter, and then you said sorry for the Christmas and Elvis.
So what happened was this is 2004, and I had to leave Cadenheads, and I'd met Stuart Lang, who was part of one of the brothers of Douglas Lang. And Stuart and Fred were very friendly, but they were not close brothers. Fred had hired Susan Webster to be his salesperson. So Stuart then hired me to be his salesperson. And what would happen is, if I made a sale, Fred would put a red line through all of it. And if Susan made a sale, Stuart would put a red line through all of it. So we had no job. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't sell anything. We couldn't buy anything. So we had this office, which was right next to Fred's office. And I would do Elvis Presley impersonations or George Bush impersonations. And she would just holler with laughter, to the point. And we would just be drinking as well. We'd be drinking, old Douglas Lang bottles of Brough and Port Ellen. And Fred would sometimes come in and say, I'm paying you too much to laugh, and things like that. But that's all we did all day long. Because there was no job. So yeah, I apologize to Susan for getting her in trouble. Yeah, sorry. When you said Suzanne, I thought of something. Susan Webster. Yeah, it was fun times. We're getting paid to laugh. It was great. But that's why I started Creative Whiskey, because I didn't have a job with Douglas Lang. And then, of course, 2 years later, they split and created Douglas Lang and Hunter Lang. Yeah. So yeah, it was best thing I ever did was leave Douglas Lang. Anyway.
Right. Maybe we should work to the end of the official part of the tasting. I have one more question, David. What's next? What are you up to?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, I've finished Whiskeyopolis, the rewrite. That took me 9 months of solid work. Huge amount of research. Yes, thank you for showing that. Yeah. I mean, to give you an idea, the first book was about 40,000 words. This book's 110. So much bigger book. I've hopefully squeezed every little last bit of information I can. So as you can tell by my tan, I'm golfing a lot. There you go. You can see the tan lot. So it's been a May of golf. That's my pastime. But I don't know. I'm still working quite closely with a lot of independent bottlers. I still help. And I've got my second festival next March, so I'll need to start organizing that at the end of the summer.
That's the Independent Bottlers Festival.
Yeah. So this year we had a 4-part movie series. Next year we'll have a 1-hour movie on, it's called Grain to Glass. So it's the single estates. So Arbiki, Dalfmill, Filey Bay, Ballindallack, Kilhoman, and Lochley. So they're filming all of them and interviewing, and we'll have a 1-hour movie about them, and then hopefully a 1-hour tasting, and then 2 hours for lunch, and then a 4-hour whiskey festival.
That's something I was wondering about, that movie about the independent bottlers. can we do showings here? Can we
Yeah,
organize?
I think
How
you
does
can
that
go.
work?
You can go on the website. If you go on the Water of Life website, you can buy it, and I think it's maybe 13 euros or something to buy it and watch it.
Yeah, but I want to show it to people. I want to do like you
To
said, show it
do,
and do a tasting with it.
yeah, to do that, I mean, for this you could probably do it, but you'd need broadcasting rights
Yeah,
to
sure.
show it. Yeah, you might be able to contact them, email
Okay,
Greg.
I'll get in touch with them.
It's really good, and you guys will know everybody in it. I start it. You can watch the advert on YouTube actually. If you YouTube Independent Spirits Water of Life, you can watch the advert and it'll give you a taste. But you'll recognize all the people in it. And it's a lovely love letter to all independent bottlers. They talk about Alex Bruce and they talk about Adelphi, and they talk about Sekinder, and we're all in it. We're all do a bit on Samaroli as well, which is really interesting. There's no critical element to it, which I would have liked. It's annoying to me that they've got all these bottle shots. The day I'm interviewed is the day my book came out, the actual day I get it, and they wouldn't let me show it on camera. Now, I'm not wanting to do that to promote it, but in the book, I talk about all the law cases. I talk about the bad attitude towards us, how we're viewed, all this stuff. And they did none of that in the movie. And I would have liked a few distillers to have come on and say, actually, we really hate independent bottlers. They're stealing our thunder. They're doing this. There's none of that. So that's a bit of a shame. It is a bit all very Californian. It's a bit nice, but lovely to watch, really. And there's some very funny moments in it. Mark Watt is very funny in it.
So he is funny if he wants to.
Oh, he's funny all the time. He can't help it. He's funny when he doesn't know he's being funny. But the same guys who have filmed that, they're doing this grain to glass for next year. So that's March 21st. So if anybody wants to come over, this year's festival was unbelievable. It's £45 a ticket. And your first dram might have been a 1949 Glenlivet from Gordon MacPhail. So there's your £45 right there. Claxton's was serving a 52-year-old Invergordon. I think Finn Thompson had a 36-year-old Glengarry. All free, by the way. You don't pay for anything once you're in. So yeah, phenomenal festival. We had people from Sweden and America and Holland and everything come, Netherlands, I should say. So I'll be promoting that on Facebook at some point. Great festival, good fun, good people. I'm doing an Uber tasting the night before at the Port of Leith distillery.
Another idea could be that this group could go to the festival and you do a tasting for us there.
Absolutely. I've got a few bottles of creative in the other room.
There you go.
Might even pull one of them down. Special occasion.
Yeah. I have some organizing to do, I think.
I think you could rent a van and take the ferry over to Newcastle, or just get a Ryanair flight.
I'll get like a refrigerator truck and put everybody in the refrigerator or something like that.
Bring enough Jupiler beer for me. I'll pay the journey.
Jupiler, I'll bring you some good beer, David. All right, guys. I think we'll call it a day here. David, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. That was good. I enjoyed the format.
All right, cool. So good. Everybody else, thanks for being here again. So as I said in the beginning, the next one will be Wormtop, the Wormtop experience or something like that. Maybe we should do the tasting from a hot tub or something. I'll think about that. Thanks everybody, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hot
See you
zines.
soon.